everybody, it's Catherine from Jayne Catherine on Books, and I'm here today with one of my duos. This is a series, if you are not familiar with it, where I choose two books and they'll have got a similar theme. There's a link there between them, and the link with the two I'm going to be talking about and reviewing today is tattoos. There's a link of tattoos between the two. So the two books here are The Tattoo Thief by Alison Belsham and Ink by Alice Broadway. Okay, one is a YA, one is an adult crime fiction. So The Tattoo Thief, we'll talk about that first. Loved this book, gave it 5 stars. So the premise of this is we've got Marnie Mullins, a surname, Marnie Mullins, and she is quite a renowned tattoo artist in the south of England and in Brighton, in actual fact, in the seaside place of Brighton. And suddenly it seems that there's a string of murders happening, and there's something quite significant about these murders because their tattoos have been removed. Now this is not for the faint-hearted. It is a little bit gory in places. It even made me a bit squeamish in places. So along comes, it's like a police procedural, but it's got so much more to that. So it's got a fantastic plot line. And we're following D.I. Francis Sullivan, and excuse me, he is the investigator on this case, on this string of murders, and it soon becomes quite apparent that there's a serial killer on the loose, and for whatever reason seems to want to collect tattoos off its victims. So because Marnie's quite well known in the area for her expertise or whatever, then she's drawn into the case, as it were, to help out this Francis Sullivan. But it gets quite dangerous because I think that this serial killer seems to have her on his list, and they're trying to work against time to work out who this serial killer is. It seems that they are quite prestigious tattoos, if that's the way of putting it, that they are designs, the tattoo designs are from an international tattoo artist, and his, it's very, very expensive to be able to have his designs tattooed, and yeah, I'm not saying much more than that. That doesn't make it sound all that thrilling the way I've said that. I know it's a very difficult book to explain without giving too much away. It really is, it's thrilling. It has you on the edge of your seat. You're wanting to know what's happening. Now, when I was looking up about yesterday, because I wanted to look up a couple of things about it, it's a while since I last read it. Book 2 came out at the back end of last year, which I didn't realise, called Her Last Breath, Tattoo Thief number 2. So yes, that will be on my list of books to get. So if you love your crime thrillers, if you like, quite fast-paced, crime with a really engaging plot, I liked the characters. I very much like Marnie, and I did like Francis Sullivan. There may be a bit of chemistry going on between them two in this as well. But yes, it says here, when Brighton tattoo artist Marnie Mullins discovers a flayed body, newly promoted D.I. Francis Sullivan needs her help. There's a serial killer at large, slicing tattoos from his victim's body while they are still alive. I did say it was a bit gory, and it is a bit gruesome in places, but it really is to be fair, I couldn't find fault with it. I gave it 5 stars. It had got everything that I want from a crime thriller. It had got the characters, it had got a really interesting plot, and you were holding your breath at times wondering who the murderer was, or thinking, you know, there's 1 or 2 suspects there that you think may well be them. And I like that. I didn't guess who it was. So that is The Tattoo Thief, Alison Belsham. Alison Belsham. I've not seen anybody else mention this book. One that most people will have probably heard of along the way on BookTube, because it is more recent. This is Ink by Alice Broadway. What a beautiful cover. Now this is YA, and it's a little bit of, it's hard to explain it really. I would say it's dystopian, but dystopian our world. As if it's a future world, how our world could be. And we have Leora, that was it, I wanted to call her Eleanor, but it's Leora. So we have Leora, who is our main protagonist in this, and everything is written from her perspective. Now this is where it differs with The Tattoo Thief. There are several perspectives, so looking at the murders from different eyes, so not just Marnie and Francis. It goes to Marnie's ex-husband and other people, whereas this is just by Leora and her account of what's happening. Now, in this future world, everyone is tattooed, or they call it inked. So from them being born, they receive the first tattoos, the first inking, which shows what date they were born and who the parents were, sort of information along those lines. And then as they go through school, the various things that they achieve during school is inked on the skin. The family tree is inked on the back, and every time they go through a life-changing, not just life-changing, but every time they go through anything significant in their life, it is inked on their skin. And what happens then when they die? It's because what they believe is that when someone dies, for the soul to be released, this the skin has to be flayed and made into a memory book. So they have all these museums where there are like famous people from the past, like we go around museums to look at pots and pans and old bits of, you know, pot and whatever. They have these memory books of skin with all the tattoos, the inkings on it, and they are preserved. And it sounds a bit, oh, when you think about it, it's, yeah, not pleasant really. But they believe that this is what has to happen, and the book is then taken before a committee, before a judge, and it's deemed whether there's anything, any marks on their skin that makes them not worthy of their soul, you know, leaving and going to heaven or whatever they believe. And what happens is that Leora's father dies, and there's some sort of discrepancies on his skin book, on his, you know, inkings, that could cause a whole catalogue of events, could be quite catastrophic for Leora and her mother. And it's the story really of her sort of coming into adulthood and coping with the grief of losing her father, but also of her being aware that there may have been some discrepancy with her father's book, and if there is some problems, it's the book is destroyed, so their skin, you know, their markings, it's completely destroyed forever. And to this future world, it's something very comforting for the families that they get this book of memories. Now that sounds quite awful, really. It sounds awful. You think, oh, that sounds an awful book. It's very thought-provoking and it's very interesting. And it makes you think about how people are judged, and also what about those that have made a mistake, say in young adulthood or whatever. You know, there are people that make mistakes, or they've, you know, they with what's I going to say, they're caught for theft or something else, and then they turn their lives around completely, all for the good and the better. And it's as if their past demeanours are marked on their skin forever. And so in this world, you know, it's as if they can't be, what's the word I'm thinking of, when they, you know, they can be atoned. Another word, like atoned for their past sins. They're not allowed to, because it's written all over their memory book. So it makes you think about that sort of thing. The other big startling thing that I thought about from this is that sort of the mentally handicapped people in their society don't get many marks, because academically they haven't got all these milestones that are normally inked onto their skin, and then they're bullied because they don't have all the normal markings of academia, shall we say. And her, I think it's Leora's brother has got, but he is an excellent chef, excellent baker, and it's as if, although he is excellent at what he does, he's still not acknowledged, you know, for his purpose and what he does for society. And there's just some interesting thoughts that make you think about things. And I think this is, especially at the moment, where, you know, you start to appreciate, with the lockdown, we start to appreciate the bin men. You know, we're starting to appreciate people that are keeping the shops going. We are appreciating people baking the bread, and you know, it shows that everything that everybody does for our society is needed. And nobody's any better than anybody else, really. We all need bread and shelter, don't we, at the end of the day, no matter how much money we've got. So I think this is a very difficult duo to review, because I think both are unique books. They're both very different. I gave this 4 stars. There was a little bit, the reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is I don't think there's a satisfactory ending to it. And now this is a trilogy, so there are 2 more books. However, for me, I do like there to be a satisfactory ending. I do like there to be a tying up of ends, loose ends there, for me to feel that it's worthy of a full 5 stars. So still a very good book. I know it's for a YA audience, and I think mainly, you know, the YA audience would get different things out of it than us as adults. It does make you think a little bit. It's very interesting, a very interesting premise. I've not really seen anything along these lines for like a dystopian. So have a look at that. It probably sounds a lot more interesting when you go and look it up than what I've been talking about. But I'm not going to reveal any more about what the circumstances are for a father and why he's under investigation. That's to find out if you read the book. So there we go for our duos, and The Tattoo Thief and Ink. Have a look at those 2. Let me know what you think, or if you've read them. And don't forget to like and subscribe. We keep plodding on. Don't forget, I have my book of the day while we're going through the lockdown. And yeah, Probably my mind's a lot more befuddled than normal. I feel as if I'm not as coherent. When you're not, when you're not allowed out, I think I'm losing the plot. Anyway, you take care and keep safe. Bye for now.